Welcome to the Shigeki podcast, where science and longevity come together to help you stay sharp, strong, and full of life as you age. I'm Dr. Mark Hyman, and I'm honored to be here with my co-host and dear friend, the legendary Dr. Shigeki Hinohara, a man who has spent his entire life helping people live longer, not just chronologically, but with clarity, purpose, and vitality. Today we're diving into something that might surprise you. You may be taking omega-3 supplements, eating brain-boosting foods like walnuts or blueberries, and even doing puzzles to stay mentally fit, and yet you still feel like your mind is slipping. Names don't come as fast. You walk into a room and forget why. You're losing small details and starting to worry. Is this just age or something worse? Here's the hard truth. Even with all the right nutrients and brain games, if you're still holding on to one silent habit, your brain may continue to decline slowly, quietly, and irreversibly.
That's exactly what I've seen again and again. We often focus so much on what to add, more supplements, more superfoods, that we forget to ask what we should remove. And there's one daily action repeated without much thought, like checking your phone first thing in the morning, sipping coffee with sugar, or sitting still for too long, that can quietly inflame your brain, especially the areas responsible for memory and orientation. We call it a habit, but in reality, it's a repeated stress signal to your nervous system. Over time, this leads to low-grade neuroinflammation, weakens synaptic function, and begins to shrink the areas of the brain tied to memory. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens, and for people over 60, that damage builds up faster than we think.
That's why in today's episode, we're pulling back the curtain. We'll reveal the most common everyday habit that sabotages memory after 60. We'll explain what it does inside your brain at the cellular level. And more importantly, we'll walk you through 5 simple strategies to begin reversing the damage. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Your brain is incredibly resilient even after 60. You just need the right conditions to help it recover. So, if you've been forgetting small things, mixing up names, or losing your sense of direction, from time to time, don't ignore the signs. Hit like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone you love, because what we're about to share might just change how your brain ages starting today.
So, what's the hidden culprit? The everyday habit that seems harmless, even comforting, but is slowly damaging your brain. It's the frequent consumption of refined sugar, especially first thing in the morning. That might sound simple, even obvious, but when you look at how this habit works and how common it is, it becomes clear why it's one of the most dangerous triggers of brain aging. Think about your morning. Do you start the day with coffee mixed with condensed milk? Maybe a slice of white bread, a few crackers, or a cup of sweet tea. Even something as light as a granola bar or fruit-flavored yogurt can contain 20 to 30 grams of sugar, often before your body is even fully awake.
And when that happens, when sugar hits your bloodstream on an empty stomach, it causes an immediate spike in blood glucose. Your brain in particular is sensitive to these shifts. That spike is quickly followed by a flood of insulin and shortly after a crash. But what most people don't realize is that sugar also triggers low-grade inflammation, especially in the tiny blood vessels of the brain. Over time, that inflammation begins to damage the microvasculature, the smallest blood vessels responsible for nourishing your brain cells. And the area that suffers the most, it's the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for memory formation and spatial orientation.
It gets worse. High sugar intake also leads to elevated cortisol levels, particularly when consumed in the morning. Cortisol, when chronically elevated, shrinks the hippocampus and impairs your brain's ability to encode new information. That's why people who start their day with sweet drinks or refined carbs often report being foggy, distracted, or unable to recall simple things like where they left their keys or what they came into a room to do. And the long-term effects aren't just about daily forgetfulness. According to a study published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, individuals who consume more than 25 grams of refined sugar per day experience signs of cognitive decline up to 7 years earlier than those who limit sugar. Another study from Harvard found that a high-sugar breakfast, especially one based on white carbs and sweetened drinks, was directly associated with hippocampal shrinkage in older adults.
That's a scary thought that something as simple as sweet coffee and toast in the morning could be accelerating your risk for dementia or Alzheimer's. But it's happening quietly, and millions of people are doing it daily without a second thought. We don't share this to create fear, we share it to offer clarity. The brain is resilient, but it can't heal if we keep inflaming it every morning. The good news: the moment you start reducing your sugar load, especially at the start of the day, the inflammation starts to calm. The brain fog begins to lift, and your memory has a real chance to recover. It starts with awareness. If you've been struggling with forgetfulness, distraction, or mental fatigue, take a hard look at your breakfast. Because it might not be your age, it might be your sugar.
Let's go a little deeper now into the brain itself, because while sugar gives a quick burst of energy, the way it affects your neurons, especially as you age, is far from harmless. Your brain cells do need glucose to function. In fact, the brain is one of the most energy-hungry organs in your body. But here's the catch: too much glucose, especially in sharp spikes, creates oxidative stress, a kind of internal rust. That stress overexcites your neurons and leads to inflammation in brain tissue. Over time, this oxidative overload causes permanent damage. It breaks down the delicate environment your brain needs to process information, make decisions, and store memories. And it's not just the sugar itself, it's what sugar triggers. When glucose rises, insulin rises. And when insulin stays high too often, the brain becomes inflamed slowly, chronically.
This inflammation damages the synapses, the tiny bridges between neurons. These connections are what allow your thoughts to travel your memories, to form your speech, to flow. As those connections weaken, the result is clear forgetfulness, mental fog, slower recall. And there's another layer: sugar also interferes with deep sleep. That matters more than most people realize, because it's during deep sleep that the brain cleans out waste, resets its connections, and consolidates memories. If sugar disrupts your sleep, it's not just making you tired, it's robbing your brain of its chance to heal and recharge.
Exactly. And this is why older adults are more vulnerable. As we age, enzyme activity slows down. The brain doesn't handle glucose as efficiently as it once did. You might eat the same breakfast you had 20 years ago, a sweet roll and coffee, but now it hits harder, lingers longer, and does more damage. Not only that, the brain becomes more sensitive to fluctuations. Even a small spike in blood sugar can lead to confusion or fatigue in someone over 60. It's a bit like watering a plant. The right amount keeps it healthy, but if you dump too much water every morning, the roots begin to rot. The same is true for your brain and sugar.
So, the takeaway here isn't that glucose is the enemy. It's that excess unbalanced and untimed sugar quietly undermines your brain's ability to stay sharp. And the older we get, the less room we have for those mistakes. The good news: the brain remains adaptable. Reduce the overload, and it can recover. The synapses can reconnect, sleep can deepen, and memory can return one small shift at a time.
So how do you know if sugar has already started affecting your brain? The truth is, it rarely starts with something dramatic. Most early signs are subtle, and because they seem small, people dismiss them. But they're not harmless. They're signals your brain is sending, asking for help. For example, you might forget the name of someone you've known for years, or accidentally call your keys phone or your cup plate. You might read a short paragraph and then realize you have no memory of what it said. That's not a problem with focus. That's your short-term memory not sticking the information.
Another common sign: you set something down, glasses, wallet, phone, and minutes later, you can't remember where you put it. Or you walk into the supermarket and suddenly feel disoriented, like you forgot why you're there or where a certain aisle is, even though you've been dozens of times. That moment of, where am I? Why am I here? That's your spatial memory glitching. And at night, many people wake up and feel restless, like their mind is blank but racing. They may wake up multiple times, and by morning they realize they didn't dream, or at least can't remember a single detail. That's a sign your deep sleep was disturbed, and with it, your brain's overnight recovery.
Here's the problem. Most people brush this off as normal aging. They say, I'm just getting old, or my brain's a little slow today. Worse, some try to fix it with brain supplements, ginkgo B vitamins, but they don't change the daily habits, causing the damage in the first place. Awareness is the first step. These early signs aren't just aging, they're accumulated lifestyle effects. And the sooner you notice them, the easier it is to reverse course. Now let's walk through 5 daily switches you can start right away to protect your memory and calm inflammation before it becomes damage.
Let's start with something simple. Your morning coffee. For many people, especially over 60, a typical day begins with a cup of coffee, loaded with condensed milk or sugar. It feels comforting, familiar, even harmless. But as we've discussed, that sweet hit, first thing in the morning, causes a sharp spike in blood glucose and insulin, followed by an inevitable crash that inflames the brain and disrupts memory circuits.
There's an easy fix switch to black coffee, and instead of sugar, add a pinch of cinnamon. This one small change can shift your entire brain chemistry in the right direction. Cinnamon isn't just a flavor enhancer, it's been shown to help stabilize blood sugar, improve insulin sensitivity, and may even protect neurons from oxidative stress. The active compounds in cinnamon, like cinnamaldehyde, have anti-inflammatory effects on the brain. And when your brain inflammation goes down, your focus, clarity, and short-term memory start to come back online. It's like taking the weight off your thinking.
And the best part? It's incredibly easy. Just take a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon and stir it into your morning cup of black coffee. No added sugar, no milk. Just warmth, energy, and a subtle layer of protection for your brain. If you're not used to black coffee, give it a few days. Your taste buds will adjust, and your brain will thank you. This tiny tweak can make a huge difference, especially when done consistently over time. It's a daily ritual that protects, not harms.
One of the most powerful shifts you can make for your brain, especially after 60, is to change the way you eat breakfast. For decades, we were told to start the day with something quick, light, and sweet, a slice of toast, some fruit juice, a pastry, or maybe cereal. But these options flood your body with sugar and leave your brain inflamed, foggy, and undernourished. What your brain really wants in the morning is protein and healthy fats. These are the nutrients that support acetylcholine, a key neurotransmitter involved in learning, focus, and memory formation. If acetylcholine is low, you'll feel it fast forgetfulness, slow recall, and trouble concentrating.
Exactly. Instead of a muffin or sweet bun, try a breakfast like this: 2 boiled eggs, a few slices of avocado, and a small handful of walnuts. This simple meal gives you high-quality fat, clean protein, and brain-protective compounds without spiking your blood sugar. You'll feel more steady, alert, and mentally clear, not just in the morning, but for hours after. And if you're short on time, even a spoonful of nut butter with half a banana or some unsweetened Greek yogurt with seeds is far better than a sugary cereal or bread. The key is starting your day with stability, not stimulation.
Your memory doesn't fade overnight. It erodes through tiny choices repeated daily. But those same daily choices, when made with intention, can also rebuild what's been lost. And it starts with the very first meal of your day.
Another simple but incredibly effective switch you can make for your brain is to replace sugary drinks with real antioxidant-rich juice. Most people over 60 don't even realize how often they sip on sweetened beverages, canned teas, soft drinks, flavored waters. Even healthy-looking juices often come loaded with added sugar, which inflames the brain and accelerates memory loss over time.
One of my favorite alternatives, blueberry juice or green apple juice, small amounts used wisely. These aren't just sweet fruits. They're packed with flavonoids, natural compounds that act as antioxidants for your brain. Flavonoids help protect neurons from oxidative damage, improve blood flow to the brain, and support the communication between brain cells, all essential for maintaining sharp memory. Studies show that regular intake of flavonoid-rich fruits, especially berries, is linked to slower cognitive decline, and blueberries in particular have been shown to enhance delayed recall, your ability to remember information hours later. Green apples offer similar benefits, especially for reducing inflammation in the hippocampus.
To get the benefits without the sugar crash, just take 100 ml of pure juice, no added sugar around mid-morning, between breakfast and lunch. This is when your brain's glucose levels may naturally dip, and the flavonoids can give you a gentle mental lift without overstimulation. It's a small glass, not a big bottle, and that's the key. It nourishes, not overwhelms. Over time, this simple swap can reduce brain fog, sharpen recall, and give your memory the antioxidant support it needs to age well.
If there's one habit that benefits both your body and your brain, it's morning movement, especially when combined with a little sunshine. Just 20 minutes of gentle exercise each morning can trigger a cascade of effects that directly support memory, focus, and mood. The magic starts with a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain cells. It helps neurons grow, repair, and create new connections, which are vital for learning and memory. And one of the most effective ways to increase BDNF aerobic movement in the morning.
Even something as simple as brisk walking, light stretching, or gentle yoga can activate this response. And when you do it outdoors, you get a second benefit: is sunlight exposure. Natural morning light helps regulate your circadian rhythm, your internal clock, by resetting cortisol levels and telling your body it's time to be alert. This improves both daytime focus and nighttime sleep quality. It's a full body reset. And the best part, you don't need a gym or fancy equipment. Just step outside, move your body, and let the light in both literally and neurologically. Over time, this habit strengthens the hippocampus, balances your energy, and even reduces risk of age-related cognitive decline.
It's one of the most natural medicines we have, free, accessible, and deeply powerful. Morning movement with sunlight doesn't just wake you up, it wakes up your brain's potential.
One of the quietest but most powerful ways to protect your memory is this: write things down by hand every morning. It's a habit that takes just a few minutes, but the impact on your brain is measurable, especially after 60. When you take a pen and write out just 3 tasks you want to do today, something remarkable happens in your brain. You're engaging the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning, decision-making, and working memory. This area helps you stay organized, remember details, and complete tasks in the right order. And like any muscle, it gets stronger with use.
Working memory is your brain's mental notepad. It holds the information you need right now, like remembering a phone number long enough to dial it or keeping track of the steps in a recipe. As we age, this short-term memory naturally declines, but writing by hand keeps it active. What's key here is the physical act of writing. Typing on a phone or computer doesn't create the same deep connection in the brain. But writing forces your mind to slow down, focus, and encode what matters. It's like telling your brain, this is worth remembering.
And it doesn't need to be long, just 3 short lines every morning, a to-do list, a few thoughts, a small commitment. That gentle structure helps the brain orient itself, and over time improves clarity, attention, and memory. Simple, but powerful.
Before we wrap up, there's one thing we want to make clear. You don't need to change everything in one day. We've just shared 5 powerful switches to protect your brain, but please don't feel overwhelmed or think you have to do them all at once. In fact, the most lasting changes often come from just one small habit done consistently. If you try to change everything overnight, your brain goes into survival mode, and that's not what we want. What we recommend is simple: pick one change that feels easiest or most natural to you right now.
Maybe it's swapping your sugary coffee for black coffee with cinnamon. Maybe it's walking for 20 minutes in the morning sun. Or maybe it's taking 5 minutes to write down your thoughts each day. Whatever it is, stick with that one change for 2 full weeks. And you'll be surprised. Within just 10 to 14 days, many people notice they're less foggy, less forgetful, and even sleeping better. Why? Because the brain responds quickly to consistency. It's not about intensity, it's about rhythm.
So don't wait for the perfect moment or try to do it all. Just start with one thing. Give it a little time. Your brain is listening, and it's always ready to heal. when you give it the right support, one quiet decision at a time.
Here's what I want you to remember as we close today's episode. You don't lose memory because of age. You lose it because of repeated daily choices that slowly work against your brain. The good news, that also means you can take it back. Not by doing something extreme, but by shifting the small things, your morning drink, your first meal, your first thought.
And your brain deserves that care. It's not just another organ. It's your memories, your relationships, your stories, your independence. So don't treat your brain like a garbage bin, filling it with sugar, stress, and distraction. Treat it like the most precious organ it is, because when you do, it responds. And it responds quickly, even after 60, 70, or 80.
We've shown you today that memory loss isn't random and it's not irreversible. Your brain is always rebuilding. The question is, are you helping or hurting that process? You don't need to wait until things get worse. Start now. Start small and stay consistent. If you or someone you love is starting to notice little memory slips, please share this episode with them. It could be the wake-up call they need. Leave us a comment. Do you usually eat sugar in the morning? And what's one change you're willing to try this week? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss an episode.